When my daughter-in-law told me to leave, I smiled instead of crying. Because sometimes when the heart breaks too quietly, tears don't even know where to fall. I never imagined that one day, the home I built with love, brick by brick, memory by memory, would no longer feel like mine. But life has a strange way of teaching us lessons we never asked to learn. My name is Margaret Walker. I'm 62 years old, and this is the story of how I lost my place in my own son's life, and how I slowly learned to find peace again. I raised my son, Jake, all alone after his father passed away. He was just 6 years old when it happened. Back then, I promised myself I'd give him everything. Love, comfort, safety, even if it meant losing myself a little along the way. We had a small house in the suburbs. It wasn't fancy, but it was filled with laughter. He'd run around the kitchen, asking me silly questions about why clouds move, or why pancakes taste better on Sundays. Those were the golden days of my life. Years passed. He grew into a kind, responsible man, the kind every mother dreams of. When he met Emily, I was happy, truly happy. She was bright, beautiful, full of energy, and I thought, finally, he has someone to love him the way I did. When they got married, I moved into the guest room to give them space. At first, everything felt fine. We shared meals, laughter, and I tried my best to make her feel like my own daughter. But slowly, something started changing. It began with small silences. Moments where Emily would enter the room and suddenly stop talking when she saw me, or the way my son's laughter became quieter when I walked in. Little things that most people wouldn't notice, but a mother always does. One morning I made breakfast, pancakes, his favorite. When Emily came down, she looked at me and said politely, "Ooh, you didn't have to cook?" Mrs. Walker. I smiled and said gently, "You can call me Mom." She just nodded and walked away. A few minutes later, they both left without saying goodbye, and I stood there staring at the cold pancakes on the table. That's when I realized love doesn't always vanish in one big storm. Sometimes it just fades quietly, one silence at a time.
Days turned into weeks, and that distance kept growing. I heard them talking one night in the living room. Her voice was soft, almost pleading. "She's always around. Jake, I need space. I need a home that feels like ours." And then my son said the words that changed everything. "You're right. Maybe it's time Mom found her own place." The air left my lungs. I didn't cry. I didn't move. I just sat there, frozen. Like someone had turned the world off. He didn't say it to hurt me. I know that. But love doesn't need anger to cause pain. It just needs indifference. That night, I didn't sleep. I just stared at the ceiling and thought of all the years I spent raising him alone, the nights I skipped dinner so he could eat, the days I stood in the rain waiting for his school bus. And now I was too much to have around. The next morning, he said they were going to look at new apartments. He tried to make it sound casual, even kind. I smiled, nodded, and said, "That's nice, dear." But when the door closed behind them, I sat down and finally let the tears come. Not loud, not angry, just quiet, tired tears. I realized then that sometimes love isn't enough to keep you in someone's life. Sometimes it's the very reason you have to let them go. A week later, I packed my things. Just a small suitcase, a few clothes, some pictures, and the little clay bird Jake made me when he was 7. I didn't leave a note. I just left. I moved into a small apartment near the park. The first few nights were the hardest. I'd wake up thinking I heard his voice calling, "Mom," but it was only the sound of the wind. I made tea for 2 out of habit, and then I'd pour the second cup down the sink and whisper, "Maybe tomorrow." But slowly, I began to breathe again. I started reading, walking, watching the sunset. And somewhere between all that quiet, I found a strange kind of peace. One evening, my phone rang. It was Jake. "Mom," he said softly, "why did you leave?" I took a deep breath and said, "Because, sweetheart, sometimes love means stepping away, so you can see what's missing." He was silent for a long time. Then I heard him whisper, "I miss you, Mom." For the first time in months, my heart felt warm again. I didn't need him to apologize. I just needed him to remember. Months passed. Then, one afternoon, there was a knock on my door. I opened it, and there he was. My son, standing there with eyes full of regret. He didn't say anything. He just hugged me. Not the quick, polite kind, but the deep, wordless kind that carries every unspoken sorry. We didn't talk much that day. We just shared a meal, laughed a little, remembered the old days. When he left, he turned back and said, "Mom, maybe next time. You can come home for dinner." I nodded. And for the first time, the word home didn't hurt anymore. Now, I live alone, but I'm not lonely because I've learned that motherhood isn't about being needed every day. It's about being remembered even in silence. Every Sunday, I still make pancakes. Sometimes he visits, sometimes he doesn't. But there's always an extra plate on the table. Not for him to eat, but as a reminder that love, when real, never truly leaves. When people ask me if I ever forgave Emily, I tell them yes. Because forgiveness isn't about them. It's about freeing your own heart from the weight of what could have been. And when I look back now, I don't see loss anymore. I see growth. I see love that evolved, that stretched beyond walls and distance. If you're a mother listening to this and your child has drifted away, please know you're still the center of their heart. Even if they've built a world where your name is only whispered once in a while, love never dies. It just changes rooms. And someday, when they walk back through your door, your heart will know it never really left.